Heads up. 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Start with Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, happy Halloween almost. Clerk Cody, would you do roll call of the board, please?
Supervisor Milky.
Here.
Clerk Cody here. Treasurer Rice.
Here.
Trustee Bills.
Here.
Trustee Brown.
Here.
Trustee Hauck.
Here.
Trustee Thering.
Here.
All here.
Thank you very much. We are to item 4, approval of agenda. Happy to entertain any motions. We do have our attorney here this evening, I'll just point out, but with that, happy to entertain any motions.
Oh, yeah.
I make a motion to approve the agenda
With a correction.
with a correction. No correction.
Number 14 out.
Oh,
Yeah.
We need to add a closed session, don't we?
No, move it.
I'm
Move
sorry.
it to just
Move.
before.
Because it's optional.
help me out here. What do you need?
I'm sorry, I'm completely out of.
It's up to the board, but being that we don't have a lot of public here.
Does
uh,
Mike want
it
to
is
do some
practice to-
presentation?
Yep,
Mike
and
can.
we'll make sure that that's
Make a
in
motion
item
to
5.
approve the agenda with the following changes: to move number 14 closed session to
Number
to 9.5 after consent agenda. Is that okay?
Did we also need to add? Oh, okay.
I just put it under 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Oh, you want it up?
Yeah.
Under
Usually we
public
do it
comment.
that high.
Okay, how about 7.5 then? Is that okay?
Yep.
I heard the motion, was there support?
Support!
Motion to accept the agenda with moving item 14 between number 7 and 8 on the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously to approve the agenda with the one modification. And with that, that takes us to presentations, and I'd be happy to give Sheriff Maine the floor.
All right, thank you. So, a lot of new members, some I've met, some maybe not so much yet, but, so every year I try to get around and do like just a quick presentation of what, kind of is current at the sheriff's office and your township and stuff, and, there's 16 townships and 3 villages, so it takes me a little while, so I really didn't get started too early in the beginning of the year because of the COVID stuff, so I'm trying to catch up now. I probably will circle back right after the first year, because I like to get them out of the way in the wintertime, because it goes easier on my family, and they don't try to disown me a few times, so. So real quick, I did get here last year before everything kind of went haywire for us, so for last year, or I'm sorry, yeah, for 19, for 2020, and these are just sheriff's office stats. You guys had 6,627. Mr. Chair, I'll hand that to you.
Okay, great.
Pass it around.
Can this be our copy?
That is your copy, sir.
All right.
So last time I was here, we were talking about shortage on the road patrol. We were about 55% workforce. The commissioners, they were able to give us some market value increases. We were able to make us whole pretty quick. Thought life was going to be good. Corrections staff fell off. Some retirements, some people leaving. A few left on their, or not on their own, but it is what it is, right? So we got about half staffed in the jail, so that created problems. So we had to backfill some deputies, and it's just been a long year again. But we are almost filled back up in the corrections, and now I've lost 2 deputies. One went to the city of Mount Pleasant, one went to Florida chasing a young lady. I can't compete with that. And I have a retirement. So, it's a never-ending battle, and anybody that works anywhere, has a business, knows how hard it is to find people. So, we are starting that process. So, I guess next year I'll let you know where we're at. We turned 17,404 incidents last year. That's up about 1,458. That's about a 1.98 incidents an hour that we're running. So typically we have 2 to 3 deputies and a sergeant. If we're on training and stuff going on, when we're shorter, obviously we're shorter. But so out of those 2 or 3 that are working, we're turning about 1.98 an hour. That's our average. 16% were arrests, 36% criminal. That's a 12% increase in criminal. That's a pretty staggering number to go up in 1 year, 12% crime. But all the things we're going to talk about, we are certainly not in a bubble here. This is happening across the country right now. So 12% non-criminal, it's a 4% increase, and 36% traffic, that's 11% decrease. A lot of that came from COVID, where we weren't stopping a lot of cars in the first part of the year for quite a while, or we kind of minimized that contact a little bit. So that's where that number dropped a little. 1,269 crashes, what we policed. We had 799 car deer accidents. We told the deer, COVID, stay home. They didn't care. 108 personal injury accidents. We had 554 domestics. That was up 100 since 2019. So when you put people back in their house together, sometimes it doesn't go well. So unfortunately, that was the case. 320,382 miles driven. So our guys and girls did get out. They did turn the wheels a lot. Did 170 transports. That was way down. A lot of jails went virtual. A lot of jails wouldn't pick up warrants. We just weren't moving people around. So we are seeing that increase, slowly now. October is our busiest month, and April was our slowest. We did 1,562 traffic stops. Our arrests were 516 for the sheriff's office. It's down about 100. Again, COVID. And there was some bond and bail reform. We'll talk about that a little bit, and that kind of affected that as well. We did 272 FOIA requests. I have a full-time FOIA person in my office. That's all she does is FOIAs every single day. As I mentioned before, the DNR gives us a grant for Marine. We did 99 hours of Marine patrol, 74 inspections, and 22 warnings last year as well. Jail population, we were down. We had 3,016, less about 1,300. A lot of jail reform, and again, that was some COVID stuff as well. Average daily population dropped from 180 to about 130. We've been fluctuating between 140, sometimes 130, but about 140, 145 right now. So we're still down, but a lot of that's the bail reform and stuff like that, and we'll chat about that here in a second. We did just under 7,000 health risk and sick calls to our nursing staff. The medical contract we have at the jail is our most expensive contract, but that was 7,000 times that inmates got medical treatment or looked at or whatever and didn't have to leave the facility or have somebody come in. So they are a crucial component to our success there. We had 2,020 inmates come through the jail before we had our first COVID case. We had about 14, 15 days. We kind of cleaned it up and we have nothing. So that is the true credit to the corrections staff who have worked diligently to keep that place as clean as possible, and they've done a phenomenal job. And I know they got really sick of me in the first part of the year because about 3 times a day I was sending out new protocols because I was getting them from every acronym, from the federal, from CDC to MDHHS to local health department, you name it. They were trying to tell us how to do business. So we changed protocols a lot there for a while. So just real quick on jail reform. Lansing created this jail reform. Basically, low-level offenders don't come to the jail anymore. They get a citation issued. What we're seeing now, unfortunately, is, and I give the analogy of, say we're at Walmart and there's a retail fraud. We write them a ticket for 3 weeks out. They didn't go to jail, so then maybe a couple days later we catch them at Menards or they're at Home Depot, or they're bouncing around. They keep doing this. So for 2 or 3 weeks this goes on. They're supposed to show up for court. They don't show up for court. The judges now can't issue a bench warrant. They have to issue more or less a civil summons to appear to find out why they didn't show up. And that's usually 2 or 3 weeks out. So this goes on, and this game plays out. So we just continue to have victims and victims and victims. Our victim count, I think, is going to be very high coming up. It's not done what I think they wanted it to do. I'll give you an example. We had a person who stole a car, and I've been doing this 20 years, and a stolen car, if you're convicted, is 6 months in jail, right? So this person got arrested, got released immediately, stole 14 more cars between us and Midland County in about a week and a half. Trashed them, crashed them, insurance, adjustment. It's just, I think we're going to have to revisit this pretty quick because it's not good. And we already know, and I'm not even going to get into the major case we had with the gentleman that got out, I call him a gentleman, that got out of a different county and come here and had a very violent crime in our community. So that was bail reform as well. So that's that's something that's on our radar. We're watching closely. We've talked to the reps and the senators. I know my counterparts have done the same. I think we're going to have to see some adjustment or some changes there a little bit because it just doesn't seem to be working like they wanted it to. So we did 2,634 gun permits. Man, we handed out a lot of gun permits. I mean, a lot of gun permits. So the building repairs, we were at 23,000. In 19, we were at 50. And the year before that, we were at 75. But we were also only using a portion of the building compared to what we had been using. I will tell you, I'm not going to go into the jail construction stuff. You guys had a front row seat from that, so I won't go into a lot of detail. But you know, our facility has not gotten any better by any means. You know, so we're still struggling. I just had a command staff meeting with my sergeants in the correction side of this, and we do it once a month. And you know, they had a whole laundry list of things, and I know they're sick and tired of hearing this, but I'm like, the new facility will correct that. The new facility, you know, it just really will. And some of the clientele that we're getting in, you know, are a whole different type of people, more violent and stuff. So it's very hard to classify them. It's very hard to keep them in max cells. We had one person who was able to break a light and make a shank and carved on the wall. They was going to kill a corrections officer, and we had to deal with that person a couple times. You know, so it's just we are looking forward to this project more than you'll ever know, to have some state-of-the-art ability to house people correctly and safely and for everybody. So we did receive over $234,220 in grants last year. Provided 1,641 hours of training to the staff. For COVID, you know, we got everybody got some money for COVID, so we did too. The first round, we bought a UV light. Correction staff take it into a cell once a week, and they'll burn it, and anything it can see, it'll touch, it'll kill all viruses, including COVID, so that's been great. We bought some atomizing sprayers, and our solution will kill as well, so we spray like crazy all the time. We spray offices, we spray patrol cars, and so forth. I will tell you that right now, well, I've only got one, I think, at this point, but the last 2 weeks, we were down about 6 people between the folks that left from the road patrol and COVID, so we were running on vapors. I can tell you Mike Main and Tom Burns, the undersheriff, and the 2 detective sergeants, we were pulling calls and pulling numbers, trying to hold our head above water, but I got them coming back now, so we're hoping that's the way it's going to be. We also bought video systems. There was no internet in the jail, but state court, federal court, tribal court, all the magistrates, telehealth, telepsych, corrections, parole, probation, you name it. Anybody that ever talked to an inmate wanted to talk to an inmate on a computer, and we had zero infrastructure for that. So we tried to ramp that up. It is kind of hodgepodged, but it worked, and it's still working. We were able to get a couple of new polycoms, which is a good system, so that gives us forward to go to the new facility with us. So we made it work, but it was a struggle for a while. We had defense attorneys, especially some of the older ones that didn't really have good internet. They would pull up in front of our building and hook up to our internet to zoom into the building, and you know, we did whatever we could to make it work and make it happen. So, and a lot of PPEs. You know, we went through a lot of PPEs. So, you know, not a lot of good things in 2020, but this was kind of a cool project. Unfortunately, it was based on a very tragic situation. So, south part of the county, we had a young little lad drowned very tragically. We have constitutionally, the sheriff's office has to do a dive team. So we have a dive team. When I got here, we only had a few members, so I branched it out to the fire departments who have divers, and so now we've kind of beefed up our numbers, which is great. But we have an old donated MMR ambulance, and it's on its last leg, or it was on its last leg. So one of the divers on one of the Shepherd Fire Department said, "Hey, they're getting rid of their heavy rescue, their 911. I think they'll donate it." I'm like, "Yeah, it's older, but there's value. They're not going to donate this, right?" So I go to the fire board, and they donate it. So I'm like, well, that's pretty cool, right? So we get this, you know, it's a big box, heavy utility truck. It's got a generator. It's got scene lights into it. Got all kinds of room into it. I bring it home the first warm weekend we have in the spring. I say, "Wife, we're going to have this great project." So me and her went out and cleaned and peeled off stickers, and yeah, she'll never forgive me for that one either. But we stripped it all down. We got a hydraulic oil from the jaws out of it, cleaned it all up. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it's a red truck. I'm never going to get a cop to drive a red truck, right? It's just, there's that thing, like, that just doesn't happen. So the McGurk family and the Community Foundation First Responder Fund donated money. We had it wrapped out to Just Fab Graphics. Looks amazing. Now it's black. It's got our logos onto it. I got $500 and I changed the lenses to blue. Now it's a police car, so now they'll drive it. So we're actually going to use this as a critical response unit for like fatal crashes and the dive stuff. And to be honest with you, you know, we've had one of the incidents in the south part of the township here. I ran a critical incident out of that for about 20 hours straight. Like I said, we got computer screens now, and we've got a drone in there, we got chargers, and it's just going to be a good, you know, it runs really, really good. So Deerfield Township's hosting it for us right now because someday we're going to have a new building to put it in. So, but right now they're hosting it for us very, very, very nicely of them. So just a couple of real quick things. Body worn cameras. We have 6 of them ready to deploy to the correction staff. Our body worn cameras that we wear for the deputies have been extremely successful, and especially some major events that have occurred in the last year with our deputies and stuff. So extremely helpful. And we just got close to $100,000 in grants for new in-car cameras that'll sync up to the same system. Those are all installed, operational as well. So I tried to talk fast, but not fast enough, so hopefully everybody got it. That's all I have, but I'll certainly answer any questions if anybody has them. So
You charge people for those FOIAs? I mean, that's costing you a lot of money. Good.
we do. You know, some of them, there are some exemptions. They can, you know, they might not have the money to do that, and they work through that. So we do charge a lot of them, our police reports, and it takes 10, 15 minutes. So is it worth charging 10 or 15 minutes? But we do a ton of them. So our new record system, when I come in, I wasn't crazy about the system, so we got a new system. If the deputies do the report right, it has an automatic FOIA system to it, so it blocks out a lot of stuff to start with, and then our girl just has to go through and make sure that we didn't miss something, there's not something medical in the narrative or something about victims and stuff like that. But it's still, that's all she does every day. So
Wow.
she does a good job.
Gosh.
How is Mint doing?
What's that? I'm sorry.
How's Mint doing?
Mint. So Mint, the drug team. So leadership change there. The gentleman that's running it retired. Good guy. New guy come in, and I think just a different methodology of operation. And he says we're going to kick doors. So they have went to town. We did a task force a while back. Tried to hit some stuff hard. They are out working. You know, our overdoses. They're coming in. They're connecting dots. They're reviewing reports that we're sending them. So they're working hard right now. There's a lot of work to do. When I talk about, you know, the issues we have, you know, it's the majority of it's based on drugs. Meth is our number one right now, you know, backed closely by heroin. So, and when I talk about meth, you know, when I started my career, you know, if you find meth, you find a little bag, you're like, oh, we're finding bags of meth. We had one person at Walmart, went up to the automatic teller machine to pay for whatever he was going to pay for, reaching his pocket, paid for it, walked out, didn't realize he dropped like 14 grams of meth on the ground. So it's just, it's everywhere. It is absolutely everywhere. So, you know, it's a full-time job. So we haven't had anybody in the Mint because we've been fluctuating, and then when we got fully staffed, we were so crazy busy that I just didn't put anybody in there. We were just, you know, trying to keep up. So, and it's such a struggle because we'd like to put somebody in the schools, but don't have the person for that. And then, you know, there's some other command stuff that we really need to do, especially with this new project with the jail coming. That's kind of pull me off because I'm, you know, I've told the commissioners and I've told the administrator that, you know, if the jail goes, something happens and doesn't get built well, they're never going to remember your names, but they're always going to remember mine, and that's not going to be my legacy. So I plan on camping out, maybe parking my motorhome there. I don't know. So they'll probably will hate me when this project's over with, but you know, I want to make sure it's done right. So yeah.
Thank you.
So I had heard about the box truck being donated, but it was nice to hear more than I was aware of with that story. So
It you know, really was, we were going to make it a dive team, but when we got into it, we're like, oh my God, this thing's got a generator. It's got scene lights onto it. We've actually put, it had a fire radio into it. We put a police radio into it. I'm working on finding some money for a school safety radio because they run their own system. So no matter what we're going to, we have communications and comms in there. I've got a tri-screen thing that our computers all hook up. We got a portable printer that's wireless we stuck in there, and it's got the drone and radio chargers. And I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, it really is, just to be able to set in there. It's got a desk that folds out so we can just sit there and work into it. The only thing we learned on the first incident was, you know, the generator, you got to pull it away from the truck a little farther because, yeah, it gets a little gassy in there and you just get a little sleepy. Got to get that a little farther away.
That tank that you have over there at the road commission, you know, this building's
That's not a
insured-
tank, but yeah.
Basically, this building's insured very well, so, you know, maybe could you have one of your
Yeah.
deputies come down the road and
He's
do
referred-
steering and hit the
Yeah.
building, we can get a new building?
He's referring to
Or not.
So our emergency services team is made up, multi-jurisdictional officers from every department outside the state police. They have their own team, but, they wanted an armored type vehicle because when they approach a house with, the rifle, it's not very, in a patrol car, it's not very safe, right? So, we talked about that a few times, but, I was out a couple years back, got shot at a residence, out in Deerfield Township, and kind of realized like these guys need something more. So we were able to get that through the military program. I know some people get a little concerned about that type of equipment. It's not a parade vehicle. It's not going to be static displayed. These guys use it on the most critical situations our community faces, and we do that to protect people, to save people. It'll go through a ton of water for floods, and it protects our folks, period. So it was free. It was a good piece of equipment. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice looking piece of equipment.
Yeah, it runs great. So,
Thank you, Sheriff.
Yeah, really
Thank
appreciate you
you.
coming in.
thank you.
Go enjoy your family, Mike.
Yes, I appreciate it. You guys have a good meeting. Thank you.
Take pizza home.
All right, that takes us to item 6, public hearings, of which we have none. So we'll jump to item 7 on the agenda, public comment. Public comments restricted to 3 minutes regarding items on this agenda. If you choose to speak to the public and/or the board, please state your name and address for the record. We'll open public comment at 7:21. Seeing nobody jumping in, we'll close public comment at 7:21 PM, which takes us to, I didn't take notes on this. This is our change in the agenda, correct?
Yes.
To 7.5 it was labeled?
Yep.
I'd be happy to entertain any motions if there are.
I'll make a motion regarding the case of Charter Township of Union versus Tollus Brothers Incorporated et al., now pending in Isabella County, Circuit Court Case Number 21-16897CH. I move to go into closed session to consult with the township's attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with specific pending litigation because an open meeting would have a detrimental financial effect on the litigating or settlement position of the township.
Second.
Motion by Treasurer Rice, support by Trustee Bills
Thank you, sir.
to go into closed session. Any discussion? Clerk Cody, would you get us a roll call on this?
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. Treasurer Rice.
Yes.
Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Trustee Thering.
Yes.
All yeses.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll take just a couple minutes to allow people to vacate. What?
I need to make a comment on the consent agenda, just so everybody knows.
Okay, well,
Is it
bring that up.
in there?
All right,
Yeah,
so
minutes are in there. Oh, wait, here's the minutes.
we'll return to regular session at 7:46 PM.
Well, I gotta send this one.
That brings us to report boards and comments. Anything on item 8A, list of boards and commissions that anybody has right now?
Has Ryan Anderson talked to you about
Have
planning
not. I do
commission?
have a lead potentially on a ZBA person that,
Oh.
we'll see. Mike, Andy Tyson actually made the suggestion, so.
Okay, then I talked to Ryan, and he said that he's thinking about the planning commission.
Any questions in the October monthly activity report?
Oh, really quick, sorry.
Yes.
I noticed that in the board expiration dates, for sidewalk and pathways, we still have 8/15/21 for Phil and Jeff.
Oh,
The board expiration dates
because
for that.
they were just reappointed.
Yeah,
Oh,
Oh, you see, okay,
okay.
so
Yep.
that
They need
just
to be
needs,
sworn
that just
in.
needs updated.
again.
Thank you for catching that.
Yep.
Planning Commission, EDA, ZBA updates by our Community and Economic Development Director, Mr. Nanny. You have the floor.
Thank you. There's a few things to talk about. Our EDA board met on the 19th.
Oh, I don't know who.
They had two main business items on the agenda. One was they approved their fiscal 2022 budgets for the East and West EDA districts and made their recommendation to you for those. The other item on the agenda was an interesting one. The Pickard Party Store, which is on the corner of Florence and East Pickard Road, made a request to take down one of our street trees along Pickard Road. The tree has grown into their sign up front, and basically it's completely blocks visibility of the sign for eastbound traffic. The EDA board looked at it, considered it, and did ultimately approve removing of the tree. So they'll be hiring a contractor to do that work. It's an unusual case because the EDA decided not to require a replacement. This would be one of the few times that's been done that way. There really, unfortunately, was no place on the property to plant another tree. And with the upcoming work along M20, there was not really a good alternate location for it either. So the Plan Commission also met on the 19th. They had one major business item, and it was to help the sheriff along. This was the final site plan application for the new county jail and sheriff's office. They reviewed that site plan and ultimately did take action to approve the final site plan. There are still some housekeeping details that need to be taken care of before they can get a building permit, but they are housekeeping details and they're working on those. There's a couple of outside agency permits that are needed, and they need to address one of the conditions of this original special use permit, which was making improvements to mainly now the turnaround area on Remus Road, so that it will function for larger vehicles. So that was the activity for those two boards. The Zoning Board of Appeals did not meet in October. They had no applications. They also have no applications for November, so there'll be no meeting in November either. That I'm happy to answer any questions.
What is the objective of the turnaround? Because originally wasn't the SUP one of the conditions to pave that?
Well, it was to improve.
Improve it,
What the
okay.
condition said was that the jail project is going to pave an additional section of East Remus Road. Basically, they're going to pave it to 50 feet east of their eastmost driveway. But that will still leave a fairly long section of Remus Road out to 127 that, at the time of the special use permit, was essentially a one-lane unimproved road. The road commission has gone through at some point this year and done some work on that road. And so the road itself, is now 2 lanes wide, gravel. Actually, it's a fairly decent surface, but they didn't do anything to the turnaround area. So the turnaround is a muddy 2-track. It drains to the center, so in any rain event, it just becomes a swamp. And the problem is that when this was a farm field, that turnaround area didn't make any difference. Well, this is now going to be a significant source of potential traffic coming and going. And people make mistakes. Delivery vehicles are going to end up going down that section of road and wanting to turn around. And right now, it's simply not safe. You know, I have a Ford Escape. It made it through, but I wouldn't want to take my wife's sedan through that turnaround. And so any kind of a delivery vehicle, because of the way it's sloped, because of the mud that's in there, any delivery vehicle would simply get stuck in that space. So the condition of the special use permit was to get that rest of that road set up in a way that any vehicle, including emergency equipment, that might need to go down there and turn around would be able to do it. Unfortunately, their project engineer essentially ignored that and ignored every time we brought it up to him and said, you need to make sure this is on the plans. And so during the Plan Commission meeting, he claimed he'd never heard of this before. But you know, we certainly told him many times that he needed to deal with it. So we're at this point waiting for them to provide the information on how they're going to get that addressed. It should not be difficult to actually pave the rest of the road. They're going to have to take out that existing roadbed and replace it with a new roadbed suitable for asphalt. They're already aware of that. So they're going to actually have some pretty good material they can simply use to finish
Right.
the end. But they've got to actually take the steps to do that.
And we may have a situation where blight that's often back there may be eradicated largely because the sheriff's complex is so nearby.
Yeah, there has been a lot of tree cutting on the north side. Somebody is clearing that north side property. We haven't had any indications of interest in development, but somebody's going through and clearing that brush and opening that north side up quite a bit.
Campfire wood, huh?
So, is it okay to ask questions
Yes,
right
please.
now? Okay, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I would like to say, did they mention if they were going to do that right away? Or,
Well,
do they have to wait for another planning commission meeting now?
No, at this point, the Plan Commission has acted, they approved the plans, they listed that 3 conditions, and one of those is to address compliance with that special use item. That will all be handled administratively at this point, so Peter Gallen and myself will be basically reviewing updated information from them, and once they show they've addressed that or how they're going to address it, we can essentially sign off on those conditions and allow them to move forward. They have not submitted a building permit or anything like that yet. They've got, like I said, they have a number of steps they need to take yet before they'll be able to start construction.
So if they did that, maybe we'd see it next meeting, or the meeting after that to approve that, or?
Well, it doesn't need to go back to another meeting.
Doesn't
It
even-
will be accepted administratively.
Doesn't have to come to us for approval at all?
Nope.
Good,
It's all
We did
administrative. for me.
the SUP and then the site plan is all planning commission.
excellent,
Yep, so the ball is in their court to get those details done.
all right.
Any
Thank you,
further
sir.
questions for?
I see Dollar General started. What about the 3 gas stations we've approved? I mean, what's going on?
So the.
Building materials came down, so.
Yep, so the Christ Oil Station on East Pickard is still going through their process. They have not come back with a final site plan yet. They are currently working with some of the outside agencies. We're getting reports back from them, so they're still moving ahead. The Dunkin' Donuts Marathon gas station down on Broomfield and Isabella has a building permit. I don't think they've paid for it yet. I think basically it's ready for them. They just need to pay the bill, and they can get started. Last I heard this morning was that they were working on getting the check together for that. So we should see that relatively shortly. The Sam's Club filling station is hung up on a paperwork issue. It's internal for them. They had an easement that they claimed would be no big deal to get, that they still don't have. So they can't start until they've addressed that. That this is from the property at the south side of their site. So they've also indicated that they are intending to move forward, but they are still working out the detail with an adjacent property owner on that easement.
Well, I had a citizen come in to my office and ask me what was going in across from Burger King, so I don't know how they knew something was going in there if they haven't even started.
Well, no, the one next to Burger King, that's the Dollar General. That one has started. There's
Oh.
actually a foundation in the ground
Oh,
now.
I thought the Burger King one was gonna be the gas station across from.
That's Chris Doyle.
That's the other side of the road.
Right, that's to the west.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is to the east.
Okay, well, I told him it was the gas station.
Oh, you weren't wrong.
You're right.
It will be eventually, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to 8D, board member reports. Trustee Brown.
Yes, regular meeting for the city commission, Monday, October 25th, 7 PM. It's a Zoom meeting. There was, on their agenda, they had 16 items, the 16th item being in the work session. But I'll just touch on a few of them, and this can be brought up. You can YouTube this, or other social media venues have this meeting on it. But they introduced a new city manager, Aaron DeSenz. I might have butchered that, but I believe that's correct. And manager, is it Riley? Ridley, thank you. It was her last meeting. So I wish I was able to meet these people face to face and shake their hand. It's very hard in a Zoom meeting to get any kind of connection, but we'll work our way towards that. They also had a presentation on the Stormwater Study, which will be combined into their multi-jurisdiction stormwater master plan. That was very interesting. Also, they approved the motion for the MAC LTT to move into City Industrial Park, where the Odecos left. So they were excited about that. Just a couple more other things I'd like to bring up, items on the agenda. One of them was a motion that carried for the new ice rink. I believe it's going to be temporary for 1 year. It's going to be in Island Park, at one of the softball fields. They did approve the money, and they approved it, and this is also, so there won't be security at the rink for the kids, and it's also recreational skate only, so you can't, they're not gonna rent it out to hockey teams and things like that, like Maury Courts. So it's just a recreational skate, you take your skates down there and you skate. The money that was provided for this also includes nighttime labor, so they can go down there and take care of the ice, so I'll have a nice surface for the kids. It won't be pitted up and things like that. I don't believe there, and I guess don't hold me to this, I don't think there's a concession stand or anything like that out in Park and Ware, kids, for us that have grown up in this community. I know it. I think you need to look into that.
I'll do the concessions.
They also considered a budget, and I just wanted to briefly touch on this because of what we voted for last week on our Vector truck. They approved a repair budget for their Vector truck. They have about 10 years left, 8 to 10 years on their Vector truck. It went down, the hydraulic system went out of it, and a couple other things. It ended up being almost $103,000 they approved for the repair cost to get this back on the road. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up to, about keeping our repairs and the new truck that we just purchased, and it's going to be us in 221 days now, or 219 days. The repairs on that truck and keeping up with the maintenance is very important because it could be costly, of course. That's it in my report. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Trustee Bills?
Yes, thank you, sir. I went to the County Board of Commissioners meeting on October 19th, and they talked. The main thing I wanted to mention on that was, of course, we already knew they hired a new person, Nicole Frost, and but anyway, they approved free access for disabled vets to all the parks. So that's going to take place. That just got ratified last meeting. And then all vets will have free access to all the county parks during 7 particular days during the year. So just FYI, that was pretty cool, and I expressed my gratitude for that because it was pretty awesome. I mean, the vets, they got that, you know. Other than that, there wasn't, I didn't bring my agenda. I'm very disappointed in myself. But I did go to the, trustees there, and I both went to the Council of Governments meeting on 10/20 and heard a detailed report from the road commissioner, Mr. Caselli. And I couldn't believe how much he said basically prices have doubled and the gravel's gone, just like Bill already told us. And they're but they're gonna get a new salt barn, and I didn't know if everybody knew that, but they're getting this huge salt barn so they have enough so they can buy extra salt when it's cheap. That's gonna be awesome. That's all. I mean, I don't have a lot to add. It was really cold in that place.
Talked about the dirt roads, and I think whatever program they had this year on the dirt roads, I think they were talking about it
Double.
again next year.
But you can't get any gravel. The 2-for-1, yeah, exactly. I'm sorry.
He wanted to make sure that, you know, anybody that was interested in that program, as soon as you knew what to get with them.
Because otherwise, there's no gravel.
We put in word that we're good for 4 miles.
Awesome.
And with that, good segue.
Yeah. Planning Commission, we had a very interesting conversation with Mr. Coyne and Jason Bloomquist. Am I saying that? Bloomquist? On the solar panels. And I'll tell you, if you're interested in solar, I would take the 15 minutes and watch that from the Planning Commission of October 19th. Very informative. I believe we'll see something in the request of an amendment to the height variance. I think the variance right now is like at 20 feet, and they're looking for somewhere around 25 feet or below based on the panels that they want to use, but they have a reason why. And so, I enjoyed it. We got to ask questions, and if anybody's interested in solar, I would take a few minutes and watch it.
Did they discuss the potential text amendment versus a
I don't think
variance?
we really got into the discussion of the text amendment. It was just kind of, I'm assuming they talked about it, but no verbiage or anything like that. We just talked about it.
Just if it's a standard solar panel, there's potential that this may come up again, and maybe it needs to be a text amendment rather than continuing variances for those that want to put them in.
Mr. Coyne indicated that he may actually file for a text amendment application to make the adjustment in the height. They haven't decided what they're going to do, but it sounds like that's the direction he's going to take.
Oh, good, because that seems like a better longer-term solution than a variance.
And this is based on the panels that they're proposing to use, so, and
Right.
why, they feel this panel is worthy of this, so. That's how I took it, so. But I enjoyed the conversation, and they knew what they were talking about, so, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'll look that up. Treasurer Rice?
Yesterday, we had a meeting for the Sidewalk and Pathways Prioritization Committee. And so we were looking at some of the longer-term priorities and recommendations for sidewalk and pathway connections. And also looked at the designated streets and recommendations for changes of those. One of the big things that came up in discussion was maintenance, and talking about maintenance and some concerns they had there. Bike pathways versus like sidewalks on the side of the roads, paved shoulders, just kind of getting some information in on, what we should be focusing in on, and trying to get information to kind of broaden our our look a little bit on some of these things. And then we also did our 2022 meeting schedule for meetings. And so we have the January 18th, February 22nd, April 26th, and October 27th at 6:30 p.m. for our meetings for next year. So that's basically it. It was mostly just talking back and forth on some ideas and brainstorming kind of thing. So,
And the full committee too.
yes, it was wonderful. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions? Cody?
I didn't attend any meetings, but I'll give you some election updates. So far, we mailed out 1,922 applications for this upcoming election for Tuesday. We mailed out 713 ballots, and out of those 713, 504 have been returned. So, there's some updates. And tomorrow morning, we will be moving all the equipment to Jameson. If you guys want to help me carry that out tonight and put it in the hallway so we can get it out tomorrow morning.
Absolutely.
And we're setting up Saturday if you want to stop in and help me. Or I'll be setting up, let's put it that way.
I can help.
Everything ready.
Yeah, I can help. What time you going over there, Jameson, on Saturday?
I will be here 8 to 4, so just give me a text or a
Here or
call.
there, or both?
Both.
Okay. Do you need a truck?
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
So you have 1,922
Permanent.
requests for absentee ballots?
No, that's on my permanent list, so I have
Oh,
to
oh.
automatically mail
They got
those out.
700 and some that they mailed out.
They,
Yeah.
700 of those returned them. It's not bad.
Not bad for, single
No, for
issue,
one
Well, it's
ballot.
another special election.
right?
Cost the schools money, it's ridiculous.
Thank you. Trustee Howe?
I went to a road commission meeting on October 14th. They talked about a few problems they've been having with some roads that the Nottawa Township sewer system is going through. They're having problems getting those guys to get some repairs done, but I've noticed in the last week and a half, they've done a lot. So I'm sure some of those issues have been taken care of. They talked about many drainage issues, culverts that need to be replaced, stuff like that. Talked about trucks again, how hard it is to get trucks. They're not gonna do anything for 2022. They've tried everybody. They've tried Freightliner, they've tried Peterbilt, they've tried International. They just can't find trucks, so they said that they're gonna wait until 2022 and order more, or order more then. They're still working on 2 easements for Lincoln Road down here, south of the bridge. So, I don't know what the status is with that. It's just ridiculous, I mean, that this has taken so long. Mission Road is done from Baseline Road to Rosebush, everything's all done with that. They're also working on next year from basically roundabout to roundabout, it's what it's called. So it affects us from the roundabout in Mount Pleasant to Baseline Road. So they're working on getting all that stuff lined up. They talked about some road safety issues. Taking some of the flashing lights that you see, the flashing stop lights, those things are, I don't know, Kim, how much were those things? Like $15,000?
10,000 apiece, they said.
Yeah, the little box up there, it's ridiculous. And then another thing they talked about is the bike path that goes from Shepherd to Deerfield Road. They're still owed $200,000 on that. And they don't know where that funding is gonna come from. So, they might be stuck with that, so. Then there's a meeting tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon.
And Mr. Nanny stole all my thunder, so I have nothing else to report.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure, absolutely.
I just got a question.
What were you
Go
going?
ahead, I'm sorry.
Who's supposed to pay for that?
Yeah, was that Mid-Michigan Community Pathways?
Yep, sounded like, but,
And there were various funding sources to that,
yeah.
including the township.
But they had some repairs already to it too,
Oh, yeah.
You
Well,
know, I mean-
yeah, there were some sinkholes
yeah.
right away.
You
Yeah,
got a question?
I'm sorry.
You got a question, you said.
Oh, I wanted to make one more comment on
Oh,
my
yeah.
Board of
Sorry.
Commissioners meeting. This lady got up, I can't remember her name because I didn't bring my agenda, but she got up both times during public comment. She had a book like this, and she was just reaming Commissioner Engler, she was from Deerfield Township, and about how they need new drains, like there's nothing but a flood zone over there. And the road commission, everybody else has like decided never to talk to her again. And they're trying to give her tickets for calling in or something because she bothers them so many times. But they have flooding everywhere over there. And that she used all of her, like she wanted to use way more time than that. But the Commissioner Hope shut it down both times because she just kept going and going and showing pictures. It was horrible.
Did they not suggest to her to talk to the drain commissioner? Because
She already did. She had a petition signed by every single person in the area, in the whole area. And nobody cares. Literally.
all right, with that, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll move to consent agenda. I'd be happy to entertain any motions.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda with one minor change to the minutes. In the closed session portion, under the APM closed, it should have roll call. It was a roll call vote to come out of closed session. That's it.
Support.
Everybody supports.
That was Smitty.
Yeah.
That was Smitty.
Motion by Cody to approve the consent agenda with the one correction to the minutes. Support by Trustee Brown.
I've got another one on the consent agenda too. It's for the daycare.
Do we need to pull it out?
No, page 20. Should that say 611 South Bamber Road instead of 611 South Isabella Road?
Oh,
Because down below it says the daycare's moving from Shepherd Road to Bamber Road, but up on the description of it, it says, special use permit application for a group daycare home, 7 to 12 children located at 611 South Isabella Road.
It should say Bamber. That
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the correct.
okay.
And then that small correction as well.
What's that?
I said
She-
that small correction as well.
She fixed her motion.
Support. I'll support that correction also.
all right. Any further discussion on the motion to approve consent agenda with the one correction to the minutes and the note on the SUP?
So is this basically a daycare moving from one location to the other? Is that basically what it is? Okay, thanks.
And the issue, right, is because it's an in-home occupation of a business, right, that it goes through this.
Yeah, a group daycare requires a special use permit.
Oh, okay, thank you, sir.
If you'd ever have any questions, if you see something like that and you have questions when it's regarding the planning commission, we've had detailed discussion. If something doesn't seem quite right, you could probably get a ton of answers or questions answered by watching that planning commission and the deliberation that we used to come to the conclusion to approve.
I was just curious.
Yeah, and for the record, I felt comfortable with this and the consent agenda as I read through it. I didn't see any issues there, and, all right, so any further discussion on the motion to approve consent agenda with the minute corrections?
Yes, I motion support that.
Any further discussion?
Oh, no
All right,
discussion.
all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion to approve consent agenda with the correction to the minutes and the note on the SUP address in the action requested. That takes us new business, item A. I'm excited about this. Second reading and adoption for the East DDA Development Plan and Tax Increment Financing Plan and Mandatory Ordinance. We had the opportunity to have the first reading on this already, obviously. I'd be happy to entertain any motions. Manager, do you have anything you need to add to this?
I do not.
Be happy to entertain any motions regarding having a second reading and/or possible adoption of this.
Okay.
65.
Yeah, it's page 65, I guess. Yeah, page 65. I'll make a motion to conduct a second reading of and to adopt the East DDA Development Plan and Tax Increment Finance Plan, a mandatory ordinance.
Support.
Motion by Hauk, support by Cody. Discussion. I'll just say again, I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
And we've had the opportunity to read it for those that are watching remotely or, do I say posthumously, on this meeting. Posthumously?
Yeah.
Thank you. I knew it sounded funny. Anyway, we've had the opportunity to have a public hearing on this. We've had plenty of opportunities for the public to contribute to this plan. Did you have something?
Can you do these as a roll call?
I'd be happy to. Any further discussion? Clerk Cody, would you get a roll call on the motion to conduct the second reading and adopt the East DDA Development Plan?
Supervisor Milky?
Yes.
Milky. Treasurer Rice?
Yes.
Trustee Bills?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Hauk?
Yes.
Trustee Thering?
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. All yes.
Motion passes unanimously for the East DDA. That moves us to the second reading and adoption of, potential adoption for the West DDA Development Plan. Much like the East, I'd be happy to entertain any motions.
I'll make a motion to conduct a second reading of and to adopt the West DDA Development Plan and Tax Increment Finance Plan, a mandatory ordinance.
Support.
Treasurer Rice with the motion. I think I heard trustee, oh, I'm seeing a point. Trustee
Give it to
Brown with support. Any discussion? Would you give us a roll call on the motion to adopt, motion to have the second reading and adopt the West DDA Development Plan, please?
Supervisor Milky?
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. Treasurer Rice?
Yes.
Trustee Bills?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Hauk?
Yes.
Trustee Thering?
Yes.
All yes.
Sorry.
You should stand for that.
Yeah, for this happy dance?
Yes.
Jeez.
Put a lot of work into this. I'm really excited about
Yes,
it.
sir.
And just on a side note, well, I'll wait until the later agenda item to bring this up. My apologies. I got all excited. I'm beside myself. That brings us to item 10C, first reading and introduction of the text amendment 2101 zoning ordinance. I'd be happy to hand it over to our manager to introduce if you have something.
Yeah, thank you. We're just asking the board to consider introducing and conducting a first reading for the zoning ordinance text amendment 21-1 as recommended by the Planning Commission. You may recall that a couple of years ago, we had a rewrite to the zoning code. It was acknowledged at that time that once you actually use the new code, you're likely to find items that need a little bit of tweaking, clarification, whatnot. And so after having used the ordinance for a bit, the staff did put together that list of items that looked like they needed some additional attention. They started that back in April, and it was handled or dealt with by the Planning Commission discussed at their July and August meetings, and then at their September meeting, they approved these changes for consideration by the Board of Trustees. Just a couple items of note, all the red lines struck through versions in your packet. I think the big items I wanted to mention that it does, these amendments do reduce the number of special uses subject to, or the number of uses subject to a special use permit process. So I think that's good, and that speeds things up a little bit.
Yeah.
It allows for food trucks as a temporary use in certain zoning districts, which I think is good. To streamline the development approval process, I think the biggest thing for the board is that these amendments remove the Board of Trustees from the approval process on special uses. And so those, if approved, would not come to the Board of Trustees anymore. They would stop with the Planning Commission. Right now, the Planning Commission goes through its process, makes recommendations to the board. The board then goes through the same review process as the Planning Commission. So these amendments eliminate it having to come to the Board of Trustees. So we also think that, one, your reliance on the Planning Commission, I think is good. They're more subject matter experts. And then two, in those cases where a special use permit is needed, by eliminating the Board of Trustee approval, you're shortening the period by 2 to 4 weeks because of the way calendars work. So that's the highlights of it. Be happy to answer any questions. If you have many, I'll be asking Mr. Nanny to come up and address those.
I'm so sorry.
Trustee
Go
Bills?
ahead. I just was reading through some of these details, and this medical marijuana one has a typo, that's all, on the second marijuana. That's the only thing I was just gonna say, sorry.
Can you refer
Page is
to
that?
page?
Oh, page 76 of our packet. Page 2 of the,
Is it, I think it's spelled right.
Use the J instead of.
yeah.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to introduce and conduct first reading of the proposed PTXT 21-01 zoning ordinance amendments as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Support.
Motion by Brown, support by Hauk. I'll just comment that I struggle with the idea of the Board of Trustees not still being involved in the process of the SUPs. But then as I searched a little bit more, I found that was more my affinity and love that I have in serving on the Planning Commission. So that it was a way to stay attached to the Planning Commission, right? But the reality is, when I look at it more logically or pragmatically, is, as a manager said, the Planning Commission is the subject matter experts here. This is a little bit outside of our wheelhouse when it comes to SUPs, and I fully trust the work the Planning Commission has done, but I do want to lift up, I mean, this is a big change for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a great board, and we have guidance through Rodney and Peter. I mean, there's no T that doesn't get crossed or I that doesn't get dotted. A lot of our seasoned board members will start conversations that maybe the rest of us can jump in on or ask questions. And not that we as a board don't have questions, but I guarantee you we don't have a fraction of what gets asked or talked about from a planning commission side.
Trustee Bills?
Mr. Nanny, what's this new setback gonna be for businesses then?
So you can find that if you turn to page 101, it's part 5, Primarily, it's the front yard setback was the big change. We have one business district that has a 15-foot front yard setback. That's short, allows buildings up near the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other two business districts require 50 feet. And so what we did is we set all of them at an even 20. And that 20 coordinates with our landscaping requirements and other requirements that apply. So they're all set at 20 for the front yard. And also in the industrial districts, currently we required a 75-foot front yard setback. There again, we set that at 25, again, to coordinate with other landscaping requirements, but also to allow more efficient use of these industrial lots.
Oh, that's good.
That's awesome.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I like that.
And reasonable.
I mean, I don't know, you guys have seen these two new marijuana facilities going in town. I can't believe how close they are to the road, on Broomfield and then on Mission.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right on the road.
Yeah.
people are gonna flick cigarette butts at them.
Has anybody gone through, not to get too far off, but Traverse City? Jesus. You can't even, every single restaurant that closed in Traverse City went into a marijuana dispensary. It's like, you can't even find a restaurant there now, but you can find a lot of marijuana. Holy cow.
Different kind of edibles.
But I,
Yeah.
I like
It's a
how this has
brownies.
streamlined the process.
Yeah.
And,
Sorry.
and like what Brian was saying, I had to think about it before making a motion that, yeah, of course, we still want to be part of that. But, and James, you hit the nail on the head with the professionalism that we have with
Yeah.
with the members that we have on the planning commission. And I just, after I thought about that, most of the time, and I've been on the board a short amount of time, but every time the planning commission brings us something, it seems like we vote in their way, almost every time, and it hasn't gone on years before that. But since I've been on the board, every time the planning commission's bought something to us, we voted in the favor of the planning
They
commission.
think about everything.
they do their
Yeah,
work.
They're
so it
supposed to.
seems like the research's been going, so.
Well, this, as his description or explanation is what we get on everything.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
Peter, or,
Yeah.
on everything. So,
Feel
I'm
very
I'm telling you,
comfortable.
there's no stone unturned
But I
when
understand
we
why
as a
you feel the way
board
you do.
start asking questions. I mean, I think he reads us at night for fun. I think that's how well he knows this information. So, as quick as he is to respond, he knows the content, which my hat's off and thank you for that.
Yeah.
No,
I appreciate it.
I think probably in the last 10 years, at least all the years I served on planning commission, I think the board of trustees probably overruled the planning commission. You could put it on one hand, you could count
A
on.
handful.
I mean, I could think of 2 or 3, but maybe there was 5.
I could see if it was the other way, we would have some major concerns.
Right. And I think the other thing that it does too, and we are elected officials, and by nature of that, we're more political beings than the planning commission is, and it kind of removes us from dabbling in maybe an area that we shouldn't be anyways.
You got that right.
I agree,
should be.
I agree, thank you.
I had a comment. It was interesting to see, I know the changes have been being worked on since the new ordinance was put into place. You begin tracking the errors and the process that the planning commission goes through, and you go, oh, we should do this. I mean, I understand that process, but it's interesting to see how much pandemic actually played into some of these changes with the food trucks and the outdoor seating accessory buildings. It's nice to see that the actions are quick enough that they're beginning to take effect for some of the things we're seeing right now. That's nice.
We definitely keep our ear to the ground with regards to these things. And this reflects not just myself or Peter, but it does definitely reflect the work of the planning commission who made suggestions and added to the document.
And the insight gained in the conversations between applicants
Yes.
Yep.
and the planning commission.
Yeah, I think it's a benefit to the community, the changes for sure.
No, we have not had a motion on this, correct?
We did. Motion by Brown.
Oh, we did,
We're just in
okay, sorry,
discussion.
sorry.
we can vote now.
I love that we're
Yeah.
doing
No,
the
if
outdoor
there's no more
seating area in the restaurants. That's gonna be great, cause and I hope they keep that permanent downtown blockage too, you know, during the summer.
Life has changed. Further questions
For the summer,
or
not for next
comments?
summer?
Being that, I'm assuming you would like roll call on this, Clerk Cody?
Yeah.
So, no objection, we'll call a
Thank you,
vote.
Rodney.
Call
Thank you,
vote.
Rodney.
Clerk
Thank
Cody?
you, sir.
We have, just for clarity, we have a motion on the first reading of text amendment 210, or PTXT 2101, zoning ordinance amendments as is, support by Howe.
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. Treasurer Rice,
Yes.
Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Trustee Thering.
Yes.
All yeses.
Sorry, I missed that motion.
Motion to conduct first reading and introduce PTXT 2101 zoning ordinance amendments passes unanimously.
Yes.
That takes us to item 10D, approval of tax increment sharing agreement between county, EDA, Union Township for the East EDA district. Be happy to have our manager introduce this if you would like.
Thank you. The East DDA captures tax increments from other taxing units. That's how they get their funding. They, part of the taxes that the township collects, both the one mill and the fire mill, are shared with, if you will, the EDA, the East EDA. Same thing happens with the West, but this agreement's specific to the East. And that's how the East EDA gets their funding, is through these tax increments. About 10 years ago, an agreement was reached between Union Township, the county, and the East EDA, whereby the tax increments that these taxing units gave to the East EDA, a portion of them were returned to the taxing units. And that was memorialized in an agreement that's in your packet that's about 10 years old now at this point. And so with the amendments, the updates to the East EDA plan, which was set to expire on 12/31 of '21, the agreement that we had with the county, that the EDA had with the county and the township, was also set to expire on 12/31. So with the update to the plan, we needed to update that tax sharing agreement so it would continue as it is, as it has been, into the future to coincide with the updated plan. That's simple enough. Those changes, there's no change in the percentage of the tax share. The East EDA returns to the county and to the township general fund and fire fund 25% of those tax increments. The East EDA retains 75%. That's going to continue on under the new plan and per this new agreement. With one wrinkle, the new EDA footprint was expanded, as you'll recall. 3 expansion areas, A, B, and C, the map's in your packet. So we needed to incorporate that expansion into the new agreement. And so in discussions with the county, first thing the county was going to ask was, well, you're expanding the footprint of the East EDA. Are you also wanting to keep 100% of those tax increments in this new expanded area? Or how do we want to handle those? So in this new agreement, we're recommending that 100% of the tax increments that would normally be shared with the EDA be returned to the taxing units for just that expanded area. The township's main objective for the expansion of the footprint is to capture some areas that currently aren't in the district so that we can devote or utilize tax increments in these new areas. But we didn't want to risk the county going, no, we don't support the expanded areas because we're gonna lose more revenue than we're already losing. And so we kind of made this bifurcation within the new agreement. We're gonna treat the existing footprint as it exists today, still at the 75-25 split. And the new expanded area, we'll just return all the tax increments to the taxing units. Union Township, Fire Fund, County. So that's what's in front of you for consideration. The EDA approved this document back at their August meeting. You all are considering it tonight. It'll be in front of the Board of Commissioners, the County Board of Commissioners, at their November 9th meeting, and we anticipate approval from that body. I'll be at that meeting if they have any questions. So if you have any questions on the agreement, be happy to answer them.
I'll just add, there's been a lot of conversations with the county, some of which I've been involved in. I think the feedback I've received, and this is not the commission board, right? It's individuals in the county, both administrative and elected, really sense that the township was trying to do what is right for the community, and that this is a fair agreement. You know, in particular in light of expanding the boundaries but not capturing any monies, right, from that, with the idea that we can get a little more aggressive in those areas to improve them for economic development purposes. So I also expect, I mean, I can't count on how they're going to vote, but we've only had positive feedback in this journey that we've had. And I'm proud of our staff and communications we've had, so.
Well, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the updated East DDA District Tax Increment Revenue Sharing Agreement with the township and the county.
Support.
We're good. You pick.
Motion
really
by
care.
Brown, the loudest was support by Bills.
Thank you, that was caffeine talk.
The motion being to approve the tax increment sharing agreement between the county EDA and Union Township for the East EDA district. Any further discussion on this item?
That particular individual that you were talking about called me today too. So he's all for it, so I'm sure the county's gonna be for it.
This is for a 20-year, correct?
This is 20 years.
20 years.
Last time it was renewed, it was 10.
10, yep. Okay, yep.
So it fits with the duration of the EDA
Yep.
district.
Good.
Roll call?
Yeah, it's a contract, we should.
Any objection to calling the vote?
Call the vote.
Nope.
The motion to approve the tax increment sharing agreement between the county EDA, Union Township for the East EDA district. Please get a roll call for that, Clerk Cody.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Bills.
Yes.
Treasurer Rice.
Yes.
Supervisor Milky.
Yes.
And Clerk Cody, yes. All yes.
Motion to approve the tax increment sharing agreement between the county EDA, Union Township for the East EDA district, approved unanimously. That takes us to item 10E, Policy Governance 2.5, Financial Condition and Activities. And this is more along the line of our manager, so I'm assuming you probably want to introduce this?
Sure, this is the quarterly review of managers' compliance with policy governance items number 2.5, which is labeled financial condition and activities. See the full report on, starting on page 131 of your agenda packet. There was a budget actual report that was inadvertently not included in your packet that was sent to you electronically earlier today. The top line policy states that with respect to actual ongoing financial condition and activities, the township management team shall not cause or allow the development of fiscal jeopardy or material deviation of actual expenditures from board established ends policies. Basically, that means what we should be spending money on are things to advance your ends. That's the top line policy. There's a lot of sub-policies under that that I'm not going to go through and read out loud right now. My interpretation of that policy is that there will be no expenditures made or incurred that will exceed the expenditures as budgeted for in that current year unless it's of an emergency nature. That the manager shall also not make single purchases greater than $10,000 unless it falls under another policy there that allows for emergency purchases, and in which case I have to inform the board. And that all tax payments and tax payrolls, payroll tax related, vendor related, benefit payments, all those are to be made timely. Basically, that we're managing our finances per the budget. That's my interpretation of your policy. And I justify that interpretation by suggesting that when the budget is approved by the board, that's what we're to follow. It's left to management to operate within that budget. The Board of Trustees then is able to operate at a policy level, and that we then are the implementers of the policy. There's some data that suggests to me that we're in compliance with the policy. I'd argue that our expenditures do in fact support all the global ends that you have in your policy. We did not issue any debt. The township did not incur any debt or issue any debt. In the third quarter, all payroll-related taxes, health and other benefit vendor payments were all made timely within that quarter. And that all funds have sufficient cash flow so that we can continue to pay all our bills on time. So from that perspective, I believe that we're in compliance with that policy. So again, this is an opportunity for the Board of Trustees to review compliance with this.
Thank you.
I'm happy with everything. Things are good.
On time,
Yeah.
interpretation.
Absolutely.
Oh, we gotta go through all that.
I mean, I'd be happy to ask you to lift up any concerns. I have one question, but
I have a question.
Sure.
Just a
Trustee
question
Bills?
based on the report that we got earlier today. I was just glancing through it. I don't know a lot about this. I'm sorry. But it said that we projected that the EDA was gonna give money towards the EDA was gonna give money towards something, and it just said there's zero. I think it was the water fund or something, or sewer fund. Yeah. I don't remember. I was just looking at it. Anyway, but then it says zero for this year, so are they gonna?
I'm sorry, I'm having
Yeah.
trouble following you.
I'm having trouble too, because I was just on it and I can't remember where I saw it.
was that possibly to do with Pump Station 1?
It's Pump Station 1.
Yeah, but which has been delayed, so the funds were essentially carried over into next year's budget,
Oh, okay.
which the EDA did. I remember we looked at it, was it last week, right? So that was carried over in the budget.
Thank you.
In fact, there are some other expenditures in the EDA that, East EDA in particular, and
Oh, yeah.
West, actually,
Yeah, sewer
that
fund.
both had to carry, much like we do, well, Lincoln Road's a good example. Right.
Backdrop.
The question I had was,
That's
this is, I don't know if I should ask the manager about interpretation of this, because I wasn't sure how to interpret 2.5.8. I think I know what that means, but I just not sure, how do you interpret 2.5.8? What does that mean to you?
It means that the management team, the manager, will not buy real property, will not dispose of real property, and by real property, I mean land,
And that
without
was my-
board approval.
And that was my question. When I said real property, I was trying to identify what the definition of that was in my head. And the way you interpret that is land, essentially,
Yeah.
whether it be structure or not, improved land or not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my reading of that term, real property, and maybe it's because of my experience on the tax side of things, real property to me does not mean personal property. So it means land and whatever might exist on the land.
And that's how I interpreted it, but I wanted to make sure that was the intent of what our policy governance says in this. So is that the understanding from this board too, when they,
Yes.
okay, so I'm the only one that had the confusion, which is fine.
And so you may wonder why the purchase of 5,800 Pickard was not brought to the board. That was a purchase of real property. That was because it was being purchased by the EDA.
And I knew that, I had,
Okay.
remember, but maybe because I'm on the EDA and, but yeah. That example came to mind as a purchase of real property, but that was by the township, not by the manager. You were just executing policy directed by EDA in that case.
Yes. Yeah, if the manager were to go out and encumber buy real property without first getting approval from the board, that would be a big problem.
Thanks. Are we good on this then?
Yes.
Nothing missing then? All right, that brings us, thank you for that. And I wasn't accusing you in any way.
No.
Okay.
No.
That brings us to item 10F, Policy Governance 4.3, Delegation to the Township Manager and Management Team. Would you like to introduce this?
Sure, this is an opportunity for the board to review your own compliance with your policy. And again, I'm just going to read the top line policy. The board will instruct the township manager or management team through written policies which prescribe the organizational ends. You have a couple pages in your policy governance about the ends. To be achieved, and then further describe organizational situations and activities to be avoided, allowing the township manager to use any reasonable interpretation of these policies. There are a bunch of sub-policies, again, I won't read. The bit about describing the organizational situation and actions to be avoided, those are articulated in your executive limitation section of your governance policy. So it's for the board to look kind of internal at itself to see if it's in compliance with a policy that applies to the board, being 4.3.
And I'm just going to interject on that. Our manager read the top line, and the end of that sentence says, allowing the township management to use any reasonable interpretation of these policies. I didn't know if it should be manager and management team. Is township manager defined in our policy governance as both of those entities? I didn't know the answer off the top of my head.
Management team is defined, and there are areas where, in the policy, where both the manager and the management team are referenced.
Yeah, but here's-
Other areas where it's just the manager.
This one said township management, and to me it wasn't clear, is that manager, management team, or both? And I think it's intended as both.
It would be intended as both. There are some areas of the policy where, I don't know if it was this board, maybe a prior board, but this distinction between township manager and township management team anyways, has gotten a little bit of airtime, if you will, and
Yeah.
some policies have had management team removed from it. Others keep it in there, other policies keep it in there.
Well, and that's kind of why I asked that, because I remember some of those discussions, and I thought, I wonder if this was an oversight as far as being clear as to who it's referring to there, because
Well,
I
and
I do remember a lot of terms, township manager and management team, but when I saw township management, I wasn't sure how to interpret that.
Before the 4.3.1.
Yeah,
that
it's the
paragraph
top
said-
line, that first sentence, the top line policy.
Says
Um,
both.
It says the board will instruct township manager and management team, but the end of the sentence says allowing the township management to use any reasonable interpretation of these policies.
Well, management would
Be that both of
be
those.
both.
And that's what I'm asking for clarification on, because that's how I interpret it as well, and I
That's
heard a
how I
manager
would
say that as
interpret it.
well. Okay.
Because it
There
started
is
with
The two.
The
And
two.
then it's a collective
I
of.
just want to make sure that was clear, because when I first read it, I had to make sure that that's how I interpreted that.
Yeah.
And I only do that because of all the conversations in the past on township manager versus management team. Okay, anyways, thanks for entertaining me. So with that, I'll ask the board for how we're doing on this. Do you feel this board is in compliance with this
Yes.
policy?
Yes.
Any objections to that?
Nope.
Is there something we could do to improve the process to be in better compliance?
We already hired a good manager.
Well, we got a heck of
Thank
a management team.
Even better.
Anything else to discuss or learn regarding this policies, things we can do better to live by it more completely? So what I'm hearing so far, by the way, is we're giving ourselves an A on this?
Yeah.
Tough graders.
I just don't think we've had any issues that have come to the board since last year that I can recall off the top of my head that would indicate we need to have more in-depth conversation, and I don't believe so.
Yeah, we haven't had a stress event yet that might push us on something
Right.
related to this.
I do not recall.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Me
absolutely.
too.
What this is basically saying is that the Board of Trustees is going to direct management through written policies, and that you'll update those policies when you feel the need. And you just went through an exercise in depth, and you updated your ends. So, we need to be, as a management team, be cognizant of that. We updated the document, and you'd even see in the budget, if you've seen it yet, some execution early on those policies, on those ends. And then when it comes to limitations, if you are concerned about some aspect of what we're doing or how we're doing it, that you would bring that up and discuss it amongst yourself and maybe add more limitations if you felt it was necessary. And you have those opportunities all the time. So I think that you're doing a pretty good job of adhering to 4.3.
I did share with our manager that I was pleased in the proposed budget, since he brought it up, some of the things that were in that are a direct result of the exercise this board went through this year. It was real evident to me, and so I was happy to see that. Thank you. All right, are we good?
Yep.
Yes.
That brings us to extended public comment. Extended public comment is restricted to 5 minutes regarding any issue. If you choose to address the public of the board, please state your name and address for the record. We will open up extended public comment at 8:55 PM. Quiet night, see no one coming forward. We'll close extended public comment at 8:55 PM. And with that, that moves us to item 12 on our agenda, manager's comments. You have the floor.
Thank you, and I just have one, it has to do with the FY '22 budget. I do suggest and recommend that the board spend some dedicated time looking at that budget and asking questions and whatnot. And it occurs to me, looking at the November 10th Board of Trustee meeting, a regular meeting, that the items on the agenda are such that I'm comfortable that they could go on a consent agenda. You've been using that more and more frequently lately. And in essence, free up almost all the meeting time for a budget, so you wouldn't have to put another meeting on your calendar.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. For that.
Or you can meet an hour and a half before on the 10th, or you can have a separate standalone special meeting. But I think we ought to be taking care of that meeting, and if you're all okay with it, then maybe we can just plan on the 10th, the majority of that meeting being dedicated to
Budget.
basically me responding to your questions or comments of the budget, and we can have that discussion without putting another meeting on your calendar.
It's a good idea.
Wonderful.
Good.
I would recommend that doesn't should not discourage you from calling Mark directly or setting up a time
Right.
to have a conversation about specific items. This is an opportunity for us to do it in public view. And Mark and I talked about trying to set this up, and he had mentioned the consent agenda, and I kind of like the 7 o'clock idea too as well, because that's more typical time for us to meet. And if there is public that wants to be part of it, they're more likely to be at that than the special work session.
So that's my only comment, and with that input, we'll set up the agenda on the 10th to reflect that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, that moves us to item 13, final board member comment. Trustee Hauk.
I just want to let the public know, and all of us, I'm just proud of this board. I mean, we've been here about a year together now, and nobody misses meetings. I mean, I remember times, I've said this before, I remember a time when we had to call a board member so we would have a quorum. And I'm just proud, you guys, new people too. I mean, you guys are great. I mean, I'm just happy. Thank you.
Appreciate the comments.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bill.
Appreciate it.
Clerk Cody. Trustee Brown?
Yes. I just have one thing, and I forgot to talk about it at the city commission meeting. They talked about this, which it's probably maybe been brought to your attention already. They're working on a pedal trolley ordinance. And it looks like this is probably gonna pass.
what?
Pedal trolley
Pedal.
ordinance, so a pedal
Pedal
trolley.
trolley,
But
like a
what's gonna
picnic table.
happen
that-
is
Oh.
CMU is gonna have to be involved with the city, because they're talking about, some of that at times, maybe during games and stuff, that paddle trolley going from downtown area to CMU. There's also gonna be drop-off points, it sounds like could involve Union Township. So, they're looking into this, I just wanted to bring it to the Union Township Board that, it's all gonna, we're gonna have to all work together with CMU, the city and Union Township, because it's something we're gonna have to look at if they're passing it, and if they wanna, proceed out in the Union Township area, it's something that we might have to look at, so that's the only thing.
What is that?
Pedal trolley, so you get on and they pedal you around. Some venues will have alcohol, it's like a picnic table on a pedal bike, and the guy pedal you around, it's a trolley.
Don't they all pedal? Everybody actually can sit
Everybody
at a
can
picnic
pedal, but
table
if
and they all,
let's
one
say,
driver.
there's the ones that have, they're looking, the city is looking at
They have those in New York City.
all over.
Yeah.
But they're looking at certain areas where alcohol will be provided on the trolley. In certain areas, like if they go to city parks or something like that, there will not be alcohol.
Right.
Or the way you rent them. Right now, they're in discussion, but they just brought it to our attention
That's what I thought.
that CMU and Union Township will probably have to be involved, depending how big this is gonna be or where it's gonna go. But I just wanna bring it to everybody's attention that it's out there. So we'll see what happens.
I'm not riding that one in Island Park. We got to pedal up the hill.
Bill, with the look of you, I don't think you wanna ride going down either.
Okay. Okay.
He's all banged up over there.
Oh, poor guy.
You want to take back the comment about you like the board?
Not anymore.
It's okay, Schmitty.
Trying to get you a helmet.
Oh.
I don't think we have any more liquor licenses. I don't know how that works with those, but.
Well, and they had Director Laurie on there about that. It's almost like the drinking in the taxis or the drinking in the limousines, he mentioned. There is some kind of special use permit. He's gonna have to look in that himself.
Okay, interesting.
And bring the city commissioners up to speed on that, and Director Laurie is looking at that and gonna have answers about that. But this has been going on now, I guess they've been talking about this, they mentioned, before the, COVID really hit, is when it came about, and then it was all backburnered because of COVID, you couldn't get people together. So there's a young entrepreneur in the community that is geared up for this, and
Wow.
they're really pushing this with these pedal bikes, and maybe even moving into electronic or a motorized a pedal
Interesting.
trolley. So there's going to be a lot of talk about it. So that's why I thought I'd better bring it to everybody.
Yeah, your
because
juice box going on electrical 40 miles an hour.
we don't know what they're gonna what the city's gonna adopt or accept. But
Depending on how this journey goes, we might want to get our sheriff involved in the conversation then too.
Yeah.
And very well could be on his radar already. I know
Now I'm
Director
right here.
Loria was very concerned about having these paddle trolleys on the roads at night. And he said that's why the city plan for the lighting is extremely important for the lighting of the districts they're trying to do. And then that way you give a path for the trolley, especially if there's lighting from the downtown area to CMU. Crossing heavy roads is, road traffic is another big concern for the city commissioners that they're gonna deal with. So,
For sure.
we'll see how this all goes.
Interesting,
Yeah,
thank you.
very interesting.
Trustee Bills?
Okay, well, so
Uh-oh.
with regard to the ARPA funding, I had the opportunity to give Eric Rodriguez a call over at the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe, for which I am also the liaison. And I wanted to let you know that I spoke with him about it. He said that all their ARPA funds are, they said their ARPA funds are designated for slightly different things than ours, and that his administration is handling all of that. And I mentioned that, we talked about it, and we thought, we did bat around the US 127 Ped Bridge, and he said that all the governments wanted to work together to make a statement and not just use this for routine purposes. And he said they want to be at the table for any discussions. They definitely think that would be a great idea, but he can't speak for the administration. So and I told him Council of Governments is going to probably set up a committee for this. So I just, want to let you know I had that convo with Eric, and that he seemed receptive to that idea, although that's only one idea. That's all on that. And then I have two things. Happy Halloween, everybody. And I'm looking forward to daylight savings time, whatever, would get some sunshine back in the morning. Thank you. And then women's basketball had their maroon and gold scrimmage last weekend, and they're looking taller. Okay, so we got Georgia Tech coming on November 9th. It's the first home game, and that's going to, of course, bring our fabulous coach back, Coach Page, who left us for Georgia Tech, and she's amazing. So that should be a really good game. I'm sure they're going to trounce us, and I never said that. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you, trustee Bills. Trustee Therian?
I think Connie said it all. Thank you.
Treasurer Rice?
I know, Clerk Cody mentioned this, but election coming up second, so, any help you guys wanna give Lisa, I'm sure she'll gladly take any help setting up that she can get, so. And tearing down and all that jazz. So, yeah, just come out and vote. So,
I already voted.
Me too, yay.
I love this absentee voting, man.
I'll be brief. So our manager mentioned already that the county commission will be looking at the agreement, which we approved tonight with the East DDA. Any of you want to attend that meeting at the Commission on Aging? It certainly would send a nice message, I think, to the county. I plan on trying to be there.
What is the date?
November 9th, correct? And I believe it's at 4 o'clock. I think you said the 9th earlier.
There's the first and third,
Then it would be next, is it next Tuesday?
next Tuesday, the second.
This coming Tuesday
Okay.
Thank you.
at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
I understand.
Can't attend that one.
I
sorry.
understand.
Commission on Aging, if you go, you'll need to bring your mask.
Right.
So if you're from Chicago and you vote often, you can come here and vote, and then go over to the Commission on Aging.
Commission meeting,
That's hilarious.
4 p.m.
And then lastly, I just want to piggyback on what Trustee Hauk said. You know, I think his comments are awesome regarding everybody being here. But I also want to commend the board for our last meeting. We had a heck of a lot of work, and I mentioned to each of you earlier, let's stay on task so we get out of here before midnight. And I walked into my house about 9:20. My wife gave me a standing ovation for us getting all that work done in the time we did. And I appreciate when we got to get it done, we keep chit-chat down and we do our work. And there's other times when we have some lightheartedness here, and that's nice too. But when we got to be at task, I was proud of all of us. So,
I'll tell you what, when I,
yeah, please, I'm done.
when I read these MTA comments come through, I love this board too, because these people are facing some serious problems in the other townships.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, it's horrible. I'd have to resign.
Go green, go white.
There we go. Go green.
Right on.
Can we get the chant going? Go green.
Go white.
I'll be happy to entertain any additional motion.
I move to adjourn.
Motion by Bills, support by Brown. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
There she goes. It's surprising.
Motion to adjourn at 9:08.
Oh, you're welcome.
Passes unanimously.
You're not gonna help me now.